Hi, my name is Alan Meyer.
My name's Alex Millier.
My name is Lorna Cook and I play clarinet.
Play bass clarinet.
I play principal clarinet with our West Australian Symphony Orchestra. Along with my wonderful colleagues in the clarinet section, Lorna Cook and Alex Millier, we have chalked up many years together.
I joined WOZO in 1989 when the Arts Orchestra and WOZO merged. That means that I am the player who has been in the section the longest amount of time, although only 1 year longer than Alan.
And then I joined much later in 1996.
My grandfather lived with us when I was a child, and he was a music teacher and used to have some students for lessons in our house on Saturday mornings. There were always clarinet students, and I was about 7 years of age, and I just used to think they sounded great, and I wanted to be able to play like them. So that's why I started, and my grandfather was my first teacher.
I first started playing the clarinet when I was 9 years old. And the reason I took it up was I was asked to make a change from the recorder that I'd been doing for a little while. My uncle Eric played the clarinet, and I thought, well, that's an instrument I know, and it's one of the instruments available. I'll play the clarinet.
I started clarinet when I got selected into the music program at Churchlands Senior High School when I was 12 years old. Back then, somewhere back around the Cretaceous period, because it's a long time ago now, the only instrumental music that happened in primary schools was, as far as I know and remember, was recorder. So for all of us that came into high school at Churchlands Senior High School, we were asked to choose an instrument. For me, they actually suggested I play the tuba, and this was quite a shock for especially my dad, because when we got the news, he exclaimed, "The tuba! He's so small he'll fit inside the tuba." So anyway, we were allowed to go and think of a different choice. So we thought long and hard at home, and we actually came up with the clarinet. And I think at that time, the decision was influenced by the fact that Dad's favourite record at the time was of a certain clarinet player called Acker Bilk, with a certain famous tune called Stranger on the Shore.
I think the most impressive thing that a clarinetist can do is actually to play incredibly quietly. We can start notes very softly and end them very softly, which is so much harder on other wind instruments.
I like to test myself from time to time with fast arpeggios on the clarinet. And a great test is a piece written by the Czech composer Bohuslav Martinu, and it's his Sonatina for clarinet. There are so many great pieces that I like, it's hard to choose one. However, for me, there's two great moments in music, and they are the end of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the famous Ode to Joy, and also the very ending of Mahler's Fifth Symphony. And both these pieces end with such uplifting joy and excitement that for me, it's hard to go past those for the pieces I would never get sick of.
Without hesitation, I'd have to say the piece I never tire of listening to is the Mozart Requiem. I also never tire of playing it, and I'm always thrilled anytime it's programmed. Instead of using normal clarinets, Mozart uses basset horns, which are longer and lower in pitch than clarinets, and they make a very distinctive, soft and haunting sound, which really changes the colour of the woodwind section.
Is this one.
Once I had heard a live symphony orchestra, I was absolutely hooked on the glorious sound. It's absolutely thrilling to be sitting in the middle of a symphony orchestra with wonderful musicians surrounding you, all giving their best. My love of playing has never waned.
Most of the time, the music I'm playing that week in Wazo is what keeps my interest. But apart from that, there's the ongoing maintenance. That means practice, that keeps my skills up to scratch, which lets me enjoy my performances with Wazo even more.
To play music in a beautiful hall like the Perth Concert Hall to an audience who just adore what they're hearing and are so into it and so focused, it's just a great experience, and that really that's a wonderful motivator for us all.
I've been known to play the saxophone at a couple of parties in the past, and I think that was the start and the end of my career as a saxophonist.
As I said earlier, I love jazz, and the saxophone's a great instrument for playing that. Clarinet is too. But yeah, I would love to take up the sax and play some jazz for fun.
When am I going to take up the saxophone? Never. No, I'm only joking. This is a challenge that I might accept in the future, because I do actually really love the sound of a good saxophone section, especially in big band music.
There's a few, but John Adams is definitely one of them. He's a minimalist composer. He's written a clarinet concerto called Gnarly Buttons. I also played in an opera of his called Nixon in China many years ago, and that was amazing, just incredible.
There are many fine living composers who write really well for the clarinet and other wind instruments. But one piece that I particularly like is called Ornamental Air for Basset Clarinet and Orchestra, and it was written by Elena Katz-Chernin. Also played it about 3 or 4 years ago with Michael Collins as the soloist. It's a terrific piece.
There are two composers that come to mind, and the first one is the Finnish conductor and composer Esa-Pekka Salonen. And last year, for the first time, we played in Wazo a fantastic piece by Esa-Pekka Salonen called Nix. And it had this amazing clarinet solo that was one whole page of my part that I think is going to become one of the famous excerpts out of the orchestral repertoire for clarinet. Another composer, just happens to be another Finnish composer, Magnus Lindberg, has written some wonderful pieces for clarinet as well.
There are so many great things about Wazo. I could go on for hours talking about them. But here are 3. I love the music. I am surrounded by world-class colleagues, and it's like being part of a great big extended wonderful family.
One of my favourite things about playing with Wazo is the spirit of teamwork. The section within the orchestra, the clarinet section too, inspires me on a daily basis with their camaraderie and teamwork and team spirit. They're a beautiful section to play with. I'm very lucky.
Being part of the big sound that Wazo makes is the most exciting aspect of my job. Also, the performances, the live performances, when the adrenaline is flowing and the orchestra is really flying, it's an experience that cannot be matched. It's the best.